I'm Dr. Kemi Olunloyo for Kemi Talks Life, a continuation of my docuseries about my life. I'm not writing an autobiography because I don't read books and I don't like to write them. I've spent 17 years in college, so I'm talking because I like multimedia, and you can find it in 50 to 100 years rather than a book. Continuing on the stories of my dad. Now, I hope you remember tomorrow I'm having a service for my dad. It's his 90th birthday, what would have been. And I want to deliver a sermon on YouTube at Dr. Kemi Olunloyo. So go like the page, follow notifications, all that subscribe stuff. Make sure you're there. It's at 10 a.m. Nigerian time to 11. Then the rest of the day, I will showcase my father's achievements and what he was known for by the outsiders. But we have lived deep in trauma of a generational curse, and this is where I'm continuing now. Listen to this video. A generational curse, we hear about it, we pray about it in church, we things go wrong with us and we always pray. Our pastors encourage us to pray about breaking generational curses because it could have come from like our ancestors. Now, how far do you know your ancestors? People say they know up to their great-grandfather. For example, my father is Victor Malulu Olunloyo. My great-grandfather is Horatio Olunloyo. I don't know Horatio's father. I don't know Horatio's father's father. Now, there's a woman in the Olunloyo family. She looks exactly like my sister, my oldest sister, Yemi, the firstborn. Okay, the woman, all right, I don't know whether she married into the Olunloyo. It's my dad that would have been able to tell me that, but all these years, we didn't get that information from him. Other people in the family might know the answer, but this woman, they call her Iyalaro. Now, Iyalaro's portrait is actually on the wall of our house in Molete, and this is like my sister, exactly my sister, Bubani room. The way they tied their wrapper in those days, they tied it all the way up here and they put their gilly and all. She was very tough looking, and they said she was very dominating. Everything that she tells people to do, they do it. She was a no-nonsense person and all that. But according to my dad said, yeah, Lara was actually Horatio's mother. Okay, so if she was Horatio's mother, then I have another generation I can look at. Now, remember, Horatio Olunloyo actually died when my father was 13. Okay, so when he died, Yalara was still around. So whoever gave that picture to my dad, okay, that person, they call him Babala Damasigba. Okay, Adamasigba is an area in Ibadan. Babala Damasigba is where my father went to live after his own father died. He was in government college Ibadan. He had just started school and he was 13 years old, and his roommates were Lekonare, Wale Shoyinka, and Professor Akinkungbe. Now, two of them are dead. Shoyinka is alive. Now, I don't know why Shoyinka never issued a statement about my dad. I'll tell you that. I found out what happened, but I'll tell you that in another video. But they've been childhood friends from day one. When the whole thing happened, Shoyinka and Akinkungbe were the ones that really consoled Olunloyo to the point of no return. Let me tell you, you just started school, secondary school, you're 13, your dad dies the next day. Obafemi Awolowo was the lawyer to Horatio Olunloyo, okay? And Horatio just built a brand new house. It looked like the White House in America. I think that's what he was trying to copy. But he built it in Molete, and that's our house today that you see. The brand new house, okay, and he wrote a will. And the will was not signed. Obafemi Awolowo was said that he was on his way to Ijebu. I think the place is called Ikene, where the Awolowos are from. He said he was going for the weekend in Ikene. He'll be back on Monday, so Horatio will sign the will. Horatio died over the weekend from hypertension, high blood pressure. And there were no advanced medicines in those days. 1948, December 29th, right after Christmas, Awolowo went for the Christmas holidays and only to hear that Horatio had died. So the will was not signed. I saw the copy of that will in my lifetime. If you know my father can keep documents, and that's how I am too. Okay, and that will was not signed, but it was written by Awolowo, and it had been a souvenir of sorts with my dad. That will was in my father's suitcase on the night of the Ali Moscow accident. It was inside his briefcase, and everything was burnt, and of course, everything's gone. So It was a historical document. Whether anyone took a picture of that will, I don't know. Okay, I was only 13 that year. If I were older, I would have. Tomorrow, I'll show you a lot of things that I found in the house that belonged to my dad. They were mostly black and white photos that were taken when dad was commissioner for this, commissioner for that. Some of these pictures, I wasn't even born yet. You've seen the one with Fani Kayode. He's presenting a Bible to Fani Kayode, his boss. Remi Fani Kayode was the deputy premier of Western region. Well, Akintola Ladoke Akintola was the premier. So you've seen the young 26-year-olds, 27, 28. That was early 20s, giving Fani Kayode stuff. That is Femi's father. There's a lot of history that we need to document. Femi is more like a historian, okay, even though he's a politician and other things and a lawyer. His historian thing came from all that stuff with his father and, of course, his profession. Now, I am also a historian, but I'm technically not called one because mine is coming from journalism. And journalism is a rough draft of history. While journalism is a rough draft of history, history shapes the past, the present, and the future. This is why people can forget things. When I see people saying forgive and forget, people can forgive, but they can't forget many things. Some people can forgive, okay, and they can even forget, but the issue is some people that cannot forgive or forget are actually healing from that. And this is one thing that psychology and psychiatry has not determined. Because many people go towards the Bible and say the Bible preaches forgiveness. Do you know that some of us actually heal without forgiving the people that did us wrong? Like my dad. I've healed from my dad. Okay, once in a while I get emotional when events happen. Like on my 60th birthday, I said all this stuff that you're watching. I wrote it. On my father's 80th birthday in 2015, everything you're seeing me talking on video, I did it in a podcast, recorded it with my mouth, and you could listen. So that's the third time, and people say, why did you say this when he was alive? You think we're like, that's in our family. We're bold. We speak out. We're not scared of anybody. I did. But where were you when I did in 2015? Where were you? You're 25 and you're saying, why didn't you say that when your father was alive? How old were you? You were a fucking 14-year-old. Were you near the internet? Were you listening to SoundCloud? No, you were in secondary school. Your parents sent you to school. You came back in the afternoon, did homework. So think about where you were when I was saying these things. Okay, so don't come out with this nonsense talk. All right? Focus on the today. What's happening now? On that note, my grandfather was said to be in a cult. Horatio Olunloyo, my father's father, who died at 13, was in a cult, Ogboni. That is what they call the cult. Some historians have been briefing me in the past few days about this information. And it's so important because this man carried some kind of generational curse and he passed it to children and grandchildren and nephews and nieces. I've not gotten to their stories yet. So if in fact my grandfather was in a Ogboni cult, okay, this historian told me, two different historians told me that when Horatio died, his cult outfit that they wear in the Ogboni cult, they had to transfer it to another leader of the cult. And when he died, the new leader to be refused that red cape. They wear capes, they do all kinds of cultish stuff. You know about cultism. So the person refused to wear it because they felt it was bad luck. So they said, why don't you wear it on his 13-year-old son at his funeral? Why don't you put it on his son? Do you know when someone dies in Nigeria, in the armed forces, or in America, when they die in the armed forces, the flag that draped their coffin is folded all the way to like a square, and the president hands it over to their wife, or their children, or whoever the family is. It's the same thing in Ogboni cults. This historian told me that that red cape was actually put and draped on my dad when he was 13 and his father was buried. Do you know why the other person rejected it? And whatever he rejected went on my dad and followed my dad for another generation. Please learn about generational curses because this could be what we are all suffering about. And we have to break it fully. Freedom is here.